He was a broken man, kneeling at a stranger's grave with cheap flowers in his shaking hands. Tears fell on the stone as the wind cut cold around him. Then a voice, sharp and icy, sliced through the silence. "That's my husband's grave. Who are you?" Imagine this, a poor single dad, crying over a millionaire he never met, because that millionaire once saved his life. Late afternoon wind cut through the cemetery as a man knelt before a simple grave. His hands were rough, calloused. The cheap bouquet trembled as he set it down. Tears fell onto the stone marker bearing a name he would never forget. A voice broke the silence behind him, cold but controlled. "That's my husband's grave. Who are you? Why are you crying here?" He froze, turned. A woman in an expensive coat stood there, eyes sharp with grief and suspicion. He clutched the flowers tighter. What was a poor single father doing at a millionaire's husband's grave? The man stood slowly. His jacket was worn thin at the elbows. His boots had seen too many winters. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice cracked. "I didn't mean to intrude." The woman stepped closer. Her coat was tailored, expensive. But her face carried the kind of exhaustion money couldn't fix. "You didn't answer my question." Miranda Grant's tone softened slightly. "Who are you?" He looked down at the grave. The name engraved there felt heavier than stone. "My name is Evan. Your husband saved my life." Miranda went still. "What do you mean?" Evan's hands tightened around the bouquet. He had rehearsed this moment 100 times in his head. It never got easier. 3 years ago, I was living in my car with my daughter. She was 4. We had nothing. I'd lost everything. My wife left. The business failed. The bank took the house. I couldn't even afford to feed my kid. He looked at Miranda. Her expression hadn't changed, but something in her eyes shifted. "I was sitting outside a diner one night," Evan continued. "Mia was asleep in the back seat. I was trying to figure out how to make $5 last until the weekend. Your husband walked out. I'd never seen him before. He saw me, saw the car, saw my daughter." Evan's voice dropped. "He came over and asked if I needed help. I told him no. I was too proud, too ashamed. But he didn't leave. He sat down next to me on the curb. He pulled out a pack of peppermint candies and offered me one." Miranda's breath caught, barely audible, but Evan heard it. "He said something I'll never forget. He said, 'Kindness doesn't need a reason. It just needs a moment.'" The wind picked up. Dead leaves scraped across the path. "He gave me an envelope. Told me not to open it until he left. Inside was enough money to get an apartment. First month's rent, security deposit, enough to start over." Evan's voice broke. "He told me not to pay him back. He said, 'When you're standing again, help someone else.'" Miranda stared at the grave, her lips pressed into a thin line. "I never saw him again," Evan said quietly. "I tried to find him. I wanted to thank him, to show him that I made it, that Mia was okay. But I didn't even know his full name. Then 2 weeks ago, I saw his obituary in the paper." He knelt down again and placed the flowers gently against the headstone. "So I came here to say what I should have said years ago. Thank you." For a long time, neither of them spoke. The cemetery was silent except for the distant hum of traffic. Miranda finally moved. She stepped forward and stood beside the grave. Her hand rested lightly on the top of the stone. "Adrian never told me about this." Her voice was steady, but there was something raw beneath it. "He never told me about you, about your daughter." She looked at Evan. "He was always private about his charity work. He used to say that real generosity doesn't need applause. That if you do something good just to be recognized, it's not really kindness, it's performance." She let out a slow breath. "But I didn't know he helped people like this. Quietly, individually." Evan wiped his face with the back of his hand. "He didn't just help me. He gave me hope. I was ready to give up. I thought I'd failed my daughter. But he showed me that people still cared, that the world wasn't as cold as I thought." Miranda looked at him for a long moment. Then she reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a business card. She held it out to him. "If you ever need anything, call me." That's what Adrian would want. Evan stared at the card. He didn't take it at first. "I can't. I didn't come here to ask for help." Miranda's expression didn't change. "I know. But take it anyway." He hesitated. Then he reached out and took the card. It was simple. White, her name printed in clean black letters. Miranda Grant. Below it, a phone number. "There's something else," Miranda said. She glanced back at the grave. "My brother-in-law, Lucas, is helping manage a charity foundation in Adrian's name. If you want to give back the way Adrian asked you to, you could reach out through that." Evan nodded slowly. He didn't trust himself to speak. Miranda turned to leave. Then she stopped. "Your daughter, Mia, how old is she now?" 7. "Is she okay?" Evan managed a small smile. "She's tough. Tougher than me." Miranda nodded. Something flickered across her face, sadness or maybe recognition. "Take care of her." Then she walked away. Her footsteps faded down the path. Evan stood there alone, holding the business card in his hand. The grave was quiet. The flowers rested against the stone. He whispered one last time, "Thank you, Adrian." Then he left. The weeks that followed were harder than Evan expected. He'd been working 2 jobs, one at a warehouse during the day, another cleaning offices at night. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep a roof over their heads. Mia was in school. She had friends. She smiled again. Then the warehouse shut down. No warning, just a notice on the door one morning. Budget cuts. The company was downsizing. Evan was out. He told himself it would be fine. He still had the cleaning job. He could pick up more hours. He could find something else. But then the landlord raised the rent. Not by a little, by $200 a month. Evan tried to negotiate. The landlord didn't care. "Pay or leave," he said. "Your choice." Evan didn't have a choice. He started looking for work. Every diner, every shop, every warehouse within 20 miles. Nothing. Everyone was cutting back. No one was hiring. Then Mia got sick. It started as a cough, then a fever. Then she couldn't get out of bed. The school nurse called him at work, told him to pick her up, told him she needed a doctor. Evan took her to the clinic. They said it was pneumonia. They gave him antibiotics. The bill was $300. He didn't have insurance. He paid with the last of his savings. 2 days later, Mia wasn't getting better. The fever climbed. She was shivering under every blanket they owned. The apartment was cold. The heat hadn't worked in weeks. The landlord kept promising to fix it. Evan sat on the edge of her bed and watched her sleep. Her breathing was shallow. Her skin was too pale. He felt the walls closing in again, the same walls he thought he'd escaped. He went into the kitchen and opened the drawer where he kept important papers, bills, receipts, a few old photos, and the business card Miranda had given him. He stared at it for a long time. He didn't want to call. He didn't want to be that person again, the person who needed saving. But Mia coughed in the other room, a wet, rattling sound that made his chest tighten. Evan picked up his phone. His hands were shaking. He dialed the number on the card. It rang twice. Then a voice answered. "Hello?" It was Miranda. Evan closed his eyes. "Miranda, this is Evan. We met at the cemetery. I don't know if you remember." There was a brief silence on the other end. "I remember. What's wrong?" He tried to keep his voice steady. "I'm sorry to bother you. I didn't want to call, but my daughter is sick. Really sick. And I don't have anywhere else to turn." He heard her breathe on the other end of the line. "Where are you?" He told her the address. "Stay there," Miranda said. "I'm coming." The line went dead. Evan stood in the kitchen, phone still in his hand. He didn't know what he'd just done, didn't know if it was the right choice. But Mia coughed again, and he knew he'd made the only choice he had. Miranda arrived 40 minutes later. Evan heard the car pull up outside. He looked through the window and saw a black sedan, clean, expensive. Miranda stepped out wearing the same tailored coat from the cemetery. He opened the door before she could knock. "Thank you for coming," Evan said quietly. "I'm sorry. I didn't know who else to call." Miranda looked past him into the apartment. The lights were dim. The heat wasn't working. She could see her breath. "Where's your daughter?" "In the bedroom. She's sleeping." Miranda walked inside without waiting for an invitation. She moved through the small space quickly, taking in the peeling paint, the cracked tiles, the thin curtains that didn't block the cold. She pushed open the bedroom door. Mia was curled under 3 blankets. Her face was flushed. Her breathing was uneven. Miranda knelt beside the bed and placed a hand on Mia's forehead. "Too hot. How long has she been like this?" Evan stood in the doorway. His voice was tight. 2 days. The clinic gave her antibiotics, but they're not working. I don't have the money for a hospital." Miranda stood and turned to face him. "Pack what you need. You're both coming with me." Evan blinked. "I can't ask you to do that." "You're not asking. I'm telling you." Miranda's tone left no room for argument. "This apartment is freezing. Your daughter needs warmth and rest. I have a guest house behind my property. It's empty. You'll stay there until she's better." Evan opened his mouth to protest. Miranda cut him off. "Adrian would want this. You know he would." That stopped him. Evan looked at Mia, then back at Miranda. "Okay." He moved quickly. He grabbed a duffel bag from the closet and threw in clothes, Mia's stuffed rabbit, a few books. Miranda carefully lifted Mia from the bed. The girl stirred but didn't wake. She was light. Too light. They left the apartment and got into Miranda's car. Evan sat in the back with Mia's head resting on his lap. Miranda drove without speaking. The streets passed in silence. 20 minutes later, they pulled through a gate and up a long driveway. The main house was massive, modern, all glass and stone. Behind it, connected by a stone path, was a smaller structure, the guest house. Miranda parked and helped Evan carry Mia inside. The space was warm, clean, a living room with a fireplace, a kitchen, 2 bedrooms. It felt like a dream compared to the apartment. Miranda pointed to the first bedroom. "Put her in there. I'll call my doctor. He'll come." Evan laid Mia down on the bed. The sheets smelled like lavender. He pulled the blanket up to her chin and brushed the hair from her face. Miranda was already on the phone in the hallway. Her voice was firm but controlled. The doctor would be there within the hour. Evan stood in the doorway and watched his daughter sleep. He felt the weight of everything pressing down on him, the shame, the gratitude, the fear that he was falling again into the same trap, depending on someone else, being a burden. But Mia coughed softly, and he pushed the thoughts away. Miranda ended the call and walked over to him. "The doctor's on his way. He'll examine her and prescribe whatever she needs. Don't worry about the cost." Evan's throat tightened. "I'll pay you back." "I don't know how yet, but I will." Miranda looked at him steadily. "This isn't a loan, Evan. It's what Adrian would have done, and it's what I'm choosing to do." She walked toward the door. "There's food in the kitchen. Use whatever you need. I'll be in the main house if you need anything." Then she left. Evan stood alone in the guest house. The fire crackled in the living room. The warmth wrapped around him like something he'd forgotten existed. He sat down on the couch and put his head in his hands. The doctor came and went. Mia's fever broke 2 days later. The color returned to her face. She started eating again, smiling again. Evan stayed in the guest house, but he couldn't sit still. Every time he tried to rest, the guilt crept back. He didn't belong here. He was taking advantage of Miranda's kindness. He needed to do something. Anything. On the 3rd day, he walked around the property. The grounds were large and well kept, but there were small things that needed attention. Loose stones in the path, weeds creeping through the flower beds, a gate hinge that squeaked. He found tools in a shed near the main house and started working. He fixed the gate, pulled the weeds, reset the stones. It wasn't much, but it felt like something. Then he saw the wind chime. It hung from a branch in the garden behind the main house. The wooden pieces were weathered and cracked. Some of the strings had broken. It swayed in the breeze, but made no sound. Evan stood there looking at it for a long time. Then he carefully took it down and brought it to the guest house. He worked on it that evening, replaced the broken strings, sanded down the rough edges, polished the wood. By the time he finished, it looked almost new. The next morning, he hung it back on the branch. Miranda saw it that afternoon. She stood beneath the tree and listened to the soft chiming sound. Her hand came up to her mouth. She didn't say anything. She just stood there for a long time. Later, she knocked on the door of the guest house. Evan answered. Mia was coloring at the kitchen table behind him. You fixed the wind chime. Miranda's voice was quiet. Evan nodded. I noticed it was broken. I hope that's okay. Miranda looked at him. There was something in her expression he couldn't read. Adrian hung that chime 5 years ago. It broke last winter. I couldn't bring myself to take it down, but I couldn't fix it either. She looked past him at Mia, who was humming softly to herself. Thank you. Then she turned and walked back to the main house. The following week, Mia finished a drawing. She'd been working on it for days. Colored pencils scattered across the kitchen table. When she was done, she held it up proudly. Look, Dad. Evan leaned over to see. It showed 3 figures standing under a bright sun. A man, a woman, a little girl. They were holding hands. That's beautiful, sweetheart. Mia beamed. Can I give it to Miss Miranda? Evan hesitated, but Mia was already off the chair and running toward the door. Mia, wait. Too late. She was already outside, bare feet on the stone path, running toward the main house. Evan followed her. By the time he caught up, Mia was knocking on the back door. Miranda opened it. She looked surprised to see them. Hi, Miss Miranda. Mia held out the drawing. I made this for you. Miranda took the paper carefully. She looked at it for a long moment. The 3 figures, the sun, the smiles. Something shifted in her face. The hard lines softened. And then, for the first time in months, Miranda smiled. It was small, fragile, but real. This is wonderful, Mia. Thank you. Mia grinned. Do you like it? I love it. Miranda looked at Evan. He saw something in her eyes he hadn't seen before. Something that looked like hope. Would you both like to come in for a minute? Evan didn't know what to say, but Mia was already inside, chattering about the color she used and how hard it was to draw the sun just right. Miranda led them into the kitchen. She poured juice for Mia and coffee for Evan. They sat at the large wooden table. Mia talked about school, about her favorite teacher, about a boy who always stole her eraser. Miranda listened. Really listened. She asked questions. She laughed at Mia's stories. And for a brief moment, the house didn't feel so empty. The 3rd week, Miranda mentioned the charity foundation. They were sitting outside in the garden. Mia was playing with a ball near the wind chime. The sound drifted through the air. The foundation needs help, Miranda said. It's been difficult to manage since Adrian passed. My brother-in-law, Lucas, has been handling most of it, but we're understaffed. She looked at Evan. You said you wanted to give back, to help people the way Adrian helped you. If you're interested, there's a position, administrative work, organizing events, connecting with people who need assistance. Evan stared at her. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you an opportunity if you want it. He didn't know what to say. A few weeks ago, he was cleaning offices at night. Now, he was being offered a chance to work for a foundation that actually mattered. I'd like that, he said quietly. Thank you. Miranda nodded. You can start next week. I'll introduce you to Lucas. He'll show you around. The foundation office was smaller than Evan expected. It occupied the 2nd floor of a building downtown. The walls were covered with photos of people Adrian had helped. Families, children, veterans, people who'd been given a second chance. Lucas was there when Evan arrived. He was younger than Adrian had been, sharper. His suit was expensive. His handshake was firm, but cold. "So, you're the guy my brother helped?" Lucas's tone was neutral. Not hostile, but not warm either. "Yes. Miranda told me about you. Said you needed work?" Evan nodded. Lucas walked him through the office, showed him the files, explained the process for reviewing applications, how they decided who to help, how much to give. On the desk in the corner sat a glass jar filled with peppermint candies. Evan stopped. He stared at it. Lucas noticed. Adrian always kept those around. Said it was a small thing, but it made people feel welcome. Evan reached out and touched the jar. "He gave me one of these," Evan said quietly. "The night we met." Lucas looked at him for a moment, then he turned away. "He did that for a lot of people." The words weren't unkind, but there was something distant in them, something that made Evan feel like an outsider. The days fell into a rhythm. Evan worked at the foundation during the day. Mia went to school. In the evenings, they returned to the guest house. Sometimes Miranda joined them for dinner. She never stayed long, but she stayed longer each time. One night, after Mia had gone to bed, the girl came back out in her pajamas. "Miss Miranda?" Mia's voice was small. Miranda looked up from her coffee. "Yes, sweetheart. Do you get lonely?" The question hung in the air. Evan tensed. He didn't know what Miranda would say. Miranda set down her cup. She looked at Mia with something close to sadness. "Yes, sometimes I do." Mia walked over and climbed into the chair next to her. "My dad gets lonely too. But he told me that when you have good people around you, you don't have to be lonely anymore." Miranda's eyes glistened. She reached out and gently brushed Mia's hair. "Your dad is very wise." Mia smiled. Then she hopped down and went back to bed. Evan and Miranda sat in silence. He didn't know what to say. He felt exposed, vulnerable. Miranda stood and walked to the door, but before she left, she glanced back at him. "She's right, you know. About good people." Then she was gone. Evan sat alone in the quiet house. Through the window, he could see the lights on in the main house. He saw Miranda's silhouette moving through the kitchen, washing dishes, putting things away. And for the first time in a long time, he felt something he didn't recognize at first. Warmth. Not the kind that came from a fire or a blanket. The kind that came from not being alone anymore. Then Lucas came back. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Evan was at the foundation office reviewing applications when Lucas walked in. His expression was tight, controlled. "We need to talk." Evan looked up. "About what?" Lucas closed the door behind him. "About you and Miranda." Evan's stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" Lucas crossed his arms. "You're living in her guest house, working at my brother's foundation, spending time with her every day. Do you see how this looks?" Evan stood. "I'm not taking advantage of her. She offered to help. I'm grateful. That's all." Lucas stepped closer. His voice was low, but sharp. "My brother just died. Miranda is still grieving, and you show up out of nowhere and suddenly you're part of her life, part of this foundation. You're taking his place. I'm not trying to replace anyone. Maybe not, but that's what's happening." Lucas's jaw tightened. "She's vulnerable right now. She's not thinking clearly, and you're making it worse." Evan felt the words hit like a punch. "I didn't ask for any of this. I called her because my daughter was sick. Because I had nowhere else to go. If you think I'm manipulating her, you're wrong." Lucas didn't respond immediately. He just stared at Evan with cold, measuring eyes. "Maybe you believe that. But it doesn't change the fact that you're here and my brother isn't." He turned and walked out. Evan stood alone in the office. The jar of peppermint candy sat on the desk. He picked it up and held it in his hands. Lucas's words echoed in his head. "You're taking his place." And for the first time, Evan wondered if Lucas was right. Evan didn't sleep that night. He lay in the guest house bedroom, staring at the ceiling. Lucas's words playing over and over in his mind. "You're taking his place." By morning, he'd made his decision. He packed quietly, the same duffel bag he'd brought weeks ago. Mia's clothes, her stuffed rabbit, the few things that mattered. He moved carefully, trying not to wake his daughter, but she stirred when he zipped the bag. "Dad?" Her voice was small and confused. "What are you doing?" Evan turned. Mia sat up in bed, rubbing her eyes. "We're leaving, sweetheart." "Why?" He couldn't tell her the truth. That he was ashamed. That he felt like a burden. That Lucas was right. "We just need to go." Mia's face crumpled. "But I like it here. I like Miss Miranda." "I know, but we can't stay." "Why not?" Evan knelt down beside her bed. He took her hands in his. "Because this isn't our home. We were just visiting. It's time to go back." Tears welled in Mia's eyes. "But where are we going?" Evan didn't have an answer. "We'll figure it out." He helped her get dressed. She moved slowly, like she was walking through a dream she didn't want to end. When she was ready, Evan picked up the duffel bag and took her hand. They walked to the kitchen. Evan found a piece of paper and a pen. He wrote a note. Simple, direct. "Thank you. I don't want you to feel conflicted because of us." He left it on the table. Then he saw the drawing, the one Mia had made, the three people holding hands under the sun. Miranda had kept it. It was pinned to the refrigerator with a magnet. Evan stared at it for a long moment. Then he turned away. They walked out of the guest house. The morning air was cold. Mia's hand was warm in his. "Can we say goodbye to Miss Miranda?" Mia asked. "Not this time, sweetheart." Mia started crying quiet, helpless tears. Evan felt his chest tighten. They walked down the driveway, through the gate, onto the road. The bus stop was half a mile away. They sat on the bench and waited. Mia leaned against him, her face buried in his jacket. Evan put his arm around her and tried not to think about what came next. Miranda found the note 20 minutes later. She'd come to the guest house with coffee and pastries, a small gesture, something she'd started doing without really thinking about it. But when she knocked, no one answered. She tried the door. It was unlocked. Inside, the house was empty, silent. The beds were made, the dishes were clean, but the air felt wrong, like something had been taken away. She saw the note on the table. Her hands shook as she picked it up. "Thank you. I don't want you to feel conflicted because of us." Miranda read it twice. Then she looked around the room. The duffel bag was gone. Mia's stuffed rabbit was gone. The small shoes by the door were gone. She walked into Mia's room. The bed was neatly made. On the pillow was the drawing Mia had been working on a few days ago. Another picture of three people. This one had a house in the background and a wind chime hanging from a tree. Miranda's breath caught. She ran out of the guest house, across the garden, into the main house. She grabbed her keys and her coat. Then she was in the car, pulling out of the driveway too fast, her heart pounding. She didn't know where they'd gone, but she had to find them. She drove through the neighborhood, past the school, past the park. Her eyes scanned every sidewalk, every corner. Nothing. Then she thought of the bus stop. She turned onto the main road and drove faster. The bus stop came into view, and there they were. Evan and Mia, sitting on the bench, the duffel bag at their feet. Miranda pulled over and got out of the car. She walked toward them, her breath coming fast. Evan saw her. He stood. Mia looked up, her face streaked with tears. Miranda stopped a few feet away. "Why did you leave?" Evan's jaw tightened. "Because I don't belong there. Lucas was right. I'm just making things harder for you. Lucas doesn't get to decide that. He's your family. He knew Adrian. I'm just someone your husband helped once. Miranda's voice rose. You're not just someone. You're the person who reminded me what Adrian cared about. You're the person who fixed the wind chime he loved. You're the person who made my house feel like a home again. Evan shook his head. I can't be the reason you're stuck between the past and the future. You deserve better than that. Miranda stepped closer. Her voice cracked. Do you know what the worst part of losing Adrian was? It wasn't the grief. It was the loneliness. It was waking up every day in that empty house and realizing that no one needed me anymore. That I didn't matter to anyone. She looked at Mia, then back at Evan. But then you called and you needed help. And for the first time in months, I felt like I had a purpose again. Like I wasn't just existing. I was living. Evan's voice was barely a whisper. I don't want to be a burden. You're not a burden. You're a gift. Mia tugged on Evan's sleeve. Dad, please. I don't want to leave. Evan looked down at his daughter, then at Miranda, the woman who had given them everything and asked for nothing in return. I'm scared, he admitted. I'm scared that I'm not good enough, that I'll fail again, that I'll let you down. Miranda's eyes softened. We're all scared, Evan. But we don't have to be scared alone. For a long moment, no one moved. The wind picked up. A bus appeared in the distance. Then Mia ran to Miranda and wrapped her arms around her. Please don't let us go, Miss Miranda. Miranda knelt down and held the little girl tightly. Tears streamed down her face. I won't. I promise. Evan picked up the duffel bag. He walked over to them. Miranda looked up at him. Come home, she said. Evan nodded. The bus drove past without stopping. They didn't go back to the house right away. Miranda drove them to the cemetery instead. They stood in front of Adrian's grave. The wind chime hanging from the tree in Miranda's garden had the same soft sound as the breeze moving through the headstones. Miranda stepped forward. She placed her hand on the top of the stone. I've been holding on to you so tightly, she said quietly. I didn't want to let go. I thought that if I moved forward I'd be betraying you. Evan and Mia stood a few steps back, giving her space. Miranda's voice was steady but full of emotion. But I know that's not what you would have wanted. You always told me that life was meant to be lived. That love wasn't something to hoard. It was something to share. She looked at Evan and Mia. You saved them once, Adrian. Now it's my turn. She knelt down and touched the flowers Evan had left weeks ago. They were wilted now, but still there. I'm not replacing you. I'm honoring you by doing what you would have done. By opening my heart instead of closing it. She stood and turned to face Evan and Mia. Thank you for giving me that chance. Evan didn't know what to say, so he just nodded. Mia walked over to the grave and placed her small hand on the stone. Thank you for helping my dad, Mr. Adrian. I wish I could have met you. Miranda's tears came again, but this time they weren't just sad. They were something else. Something like peace. A car pulled into the cemetery lot. Lucas got out. He walked toward them slowly. Miranda turned. She tensed. Lucas! He stopped a few feet away. His expression was unreadable. I came to apologize, he said. His voice was quieter than Evan had ever heard it. I was wrong about you, Evan. About what you were doing here. Evan didn't respond. He didn't know what to say. Lucas looked at the grave. Adrian used to tell me that kindness doesn't need a reason. It just needs a moment. I forgot that. I thought protecting his memory meant keeping everything the same. But that's not what he would have wanted. He looked at Miranda. He would have wanted you to be happy. And if these people make you happy, then that's enough. Miranda walked over to Lucas and hugged him. He held her for a moment, then stepped back. I'm sorry, he said again. Thank you, Miranda replied. Lucas nodded at Evan. It wasn't warm, but it wasn't cold either. It was acknowledgement, acceptance. Then he turned and walked back to his car. The weeks that followed were different. Evan and Mia moved back into the guest house, but it didn't feel temporary anymore. It felt like home. Evan continued working at the foundation. Lucas treated him with respect. They weren't friends, but they were colleagues, partners in carrying on Adrian's work. Miranda stopped eating dinner alone. She joined Evan and Mia almost every evening. Sometimes they cooked together. Sometimes they just talked. Mia told stories about school. Evan shared memories of better days. Miranda listened and laughed, and slowly let herself be part of something again. One Saturday, Mia's school held a family event. Parents were invited to talk about their jobs, their hobbies, their lives. Evan wasn't sure if he should go. He wasn't Mia's only parent, but he was the only one who showed up. Except this time, Miranda came with them. They sat in the small classroom while Mia stood at the front with the other children. The teacher asked each kid to introduce the adults they'd brought. When it was Mia's turn, she pointed at Evan. "This is my dad. He works at a charity that helps people." Then she pointed at Miranda. "And this is Miss Miranda. She's the person who helped my dad believe in life again." The room was silent. A few parents smiled. Evan felt his throat tighten. Miranda reached over and took his hand. She squeezed it gently. After the event, they walked back to the car. Mia ran ahead, chasing a butterfly across the parking lot. "She's happy," Miranda said. Evan nodded. "I haven't seen her this happy in years." Miranda looked at him. "What about you?" Evan met her gaze. "I'm getting there." She smiled. It was the kind of smile that reached her eyes. "Me too." That evening, they sat in the garden behind the main house. The wind chimes sang softly in the breeze. Mia was inside drawing another picture. Evan and Miranda sat on the bench beneath the tree. "I found something last week," Miranda said. She pulled an envelope from her pocket. "It was in Adrian's desk, a letter he wrote before he died." Evan looked at her. "What did it say?" Miranda opened the envelope and unfolded the paper. Her hands were steady now. "He knew he was sick. He didn't tell me how bad it was, but he wrote this in case something happened." She handed the letter to Evan. He read it silently. The handwriting was careful, deliberate. "Miranda, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And I'm sorry. Sorry for leaving you. Sorry for not being there. But I'm not sorry for the way I lived. I tried to be kind. I tried to help people. I tried to make the world a little less cold. I hope you'll keep doing that too. Don't let grief close your heart. When you're ready, open it again. Let people in. Let yourself love and be loved. That's all I ever wanted for you. To be happy. To be alive. Not just surviving, but truly living. I'll always be with you. But don't stay with me. Move forward. And when your heart opens again, don't be afraid. I'll be cheering you on." Evan folded the letter and handed it back. "He loved you." "I know," Miranda said. "And I loved him. I still do. But I'm learning that love doesn't have to end when someone dies. It just changes. It becomes something you carry with you instead of something you hold on to." She looked at Evan. "Thank you for helping me see that." Evan didn't know what to say, so he just sat there beside her, listening to the wind chime, watching Mia through the window as she drew her pictures. And for the first time in a long time, he felt like he wasn't just surviving. He was living. 3 months later, the drawing Mia had made hung on the wall of the main house. 3 people holding hands under a bright sun. Beneath it, in Mia's careful, messy handwriting, were the words, "We didn't replace anyone. We became a family." Miranda stood in front of it every morning. And every morning she smiled. Outside, the wind chimes sang. Inside, Mia laughed. Evan made coffee. And the house that had been so empty for so long was full again. Not with the past, but with the present and the future.